Hello everyone. Welcome back to the series of the Intelligent Investor book written by Benjamin Graham. In this video, I shall give a quick overview of chapter 3 titled A Century of Stock Market History, in which Graham has discussed the peaks and valleys of stock market in US for the period 1871 to 1970. Also, he has educated the readers of what data to look for. So, during the process, helping an investor to evolve as a self-reliant one at the same time as an intelligent investor. In this overview, I have added 30 years India's stock market history to get a better picture. After reading this chapter, we will have answers to three important questions. What does history teach us? How does a market behave? Should an intelligent investor go for stocks or bonds? For the sake of new investors, before moving on to the chapter, a brief note on stock indexes. A stock index is a measure that gives a market performance of a group of assets in a standardized way. In India, we have majorly two indices, Nifty 50 and BSE Sensex. Whereas in the US, two commonly used indices are S&P 500 and DJIA. Graham uses both these indices for the historical explanation. S&P 500, that is Standard & Poor's 500, is a stock market index that measures the stock performance of 500 large companies, whereas DJIA, Dow Jones Industrial Average, measures stock performance of 30 large companies listed on stock exchanges in US. The plots shown here in the left give the S&P 500 index fluctuation starting from a single digit to now touching at 3470. And the right one is for DJIA, rising from as little as 25 to touching 28,600 today, that is as on August 28, 2020. These plots depict 120 years history of market performance. Interestingly, the period that Graham covered, 1871 to 1970, saw many events happening globally, including number of civil wars, First and Second World Wars, Wall Street crash, Great Depression, roaring 20s, soaring 60s. So it's pretty clear that the market had always number of peaks and valleys since time immemorial. To understand the chart easier, Graham has divided 1871 to 1970 into three segments to show how S&P 500 and Dow data behaved. First one, from 1900 to 1924, both the stock indices yielded about 3% returns, whereas during the second spell, that is 1925 to 1949, though it was a bull market era, but culminating shortly in 1929 with a peak in both indices of 32 and 381, but later only it got fully reversed. So leaving the public almost losing its enthusiasm in the stock market. During the last segment of this 100-year history, stocks returned 11% average compounded rate and 3.5% dividends. And both indices had grown roughly about 6 times. If we come back to Nifty 50's performance in the last 30 years, 1990 to 2020, in 1919 the index was at 305, which grew 5 times, touching 1500 level at 2000. After a decade, it was at 6300, that is almost grew 4 times. And then looking at the data at 2015, it got to the level of 8500, then quickly in a year it fell down to 7000, and then currently it is at 11600, which is slightly lesser than 2 times. Or to put it simple, in the first 10 years, it grew 5 times, following by 4 times during the next decade, and in 2010 to 2020, the increase is lesser than 2 times. The only thing which is quite visible is that the market keeps fluctuating, where we can recall JP Morgan's saying the market is here to fluctuate. To put things in perspective, let us have a look at Nifty shown in green, DJIA in purple, and S&P 500 in red. The trend seems to be similar, especially since 2008. And in spite of upward movement over years or decades, why is there so much of noise? Well, if one looks at the price, say from 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, and on to slicing down to 5 years, to 1 year, to quarterly, to monthly, to weekly, to daily, to every minute or second, there is a random walk, but which is pronounced more at daily or maybe seconds intervals, whereas at macro scale, that is at the length of 10 or 20 or 50 years, it is less pronounced. Mathematically speaking, it is about martingale and also mean reversion. That is, every now and then, when the price of indexes keeps increasing, one can expect that the market will move towards the mean. Next, Graham is so particular about investor getting familiarized about the actual performance of the companies or stocks. This table in the left shows 100 years fundamental data, which includes average price, earnings, average dividend, average yield, PE ratio, and the growth rate. Whereas the right one gives more details for the period 1948 to 1971. This table gives an insight of how stocks and bonds performed over years in terms of PE ratio, which is nothing but price to earnings ratio, PB ratio, which is price to book values. And with this data, Graham suggests that at the outset, stocks may appear to have good returns, but while comparing the yields, it is quite clear that the earnings of stocks are technically less favorable over bonds. Now, if we have a look at the Nifty data, PE is oscillating somewhere between 5 to 33, and looking at August 28th PE ratio, it is about 33, meaning investors are willing to pay 33 rupees for just 1 rupee profit the index earns, whereas Graham recommends PE ratio to be lesser than 20. The Nifty PB ratio value remains between 2 to 5, whereas 2.75 to 3.25 is considered fair as far as market valuation. And if you look at the current PB ratio, it is about 3.26, which is just overvalued market. And generally the dividend yield varies somewhere between 0.8 to 2.25, and currently the dividend yield is about 1.43. So to sum it up, Graham lists three factors. First, check the real growth in terms of earnings and dividends. Second, keep a tab on rise in prices, that is the inflation growth. And third, know the appetite of investors on that particular stocks. It could be in terms of volume or in terms of interest, etc. So considering the historical values of the market, Graham arrived at 6% returns per annum and PE ratio to be 20.8 as shown in this table, which was later confirmed by Nobel Prize laureate Robert Shiller, who developed Shiller PE ratio, which was inspired by Graham's valuation, and commented that Graham was right on these targets and that price is the biggest determinant of your investment returns. On to the commentary section, Jason Zweig sends some very important messages. He talks about what three popular market pundits propounded and what happened in reality. In 1999, Kevin in CNN's telecast said that wireless telecommunication stock value is here to grow big and not to be misunderstood as overvalued. But during 2000 to 2002, Nokia lost about 67%, whereas Winster lost completely 99.9%. Robert uttered in Wall Street Journal that investors are making a mistake by discarding right companies because of their high price. But by late 2002, Cisco Systems and Motorola, both of his favorite companies, fell by 70%, which amounted to more than $400 billion loss. Jeffrey categorically said that the stock market is not riskier today than 2 years ago just because of its high price. But by the end of 2002, both indices DJIA and Nasdaq declined drastically, that is by 26% and 71% respectively. Takeaway message: don't just simply follow what market gurus preach. It is important that the value of the stock should always be the function of price you pay. An intelligent investor should keep asking herself or himself fundamentally simple and logical questions like, if the price increases with time for a longer time but without any productivity in reality, then doesn't it mean the stock is overpriced, and ultimately meaning the returns could be appropriately affected? Rule of opposites always rules. The more enthusiastic investors become about the stock market in the long run, the more certain they ought to be proved wrong in the short run. So to summarize, an intelligent investor must never forecast the future solely by extrapolating the past. Keep your expectations as low as possible. And importantly, don't believe or follow stock pundits' predictions. So what an intelligent investor is supposed to do: read the history about the company, get the sense of numbers of the company's cash flow, stock price, dividend, and their corresponding ratios like PE, PB, and dividend yield, stock earnings over bond yield, etc. So wrapping up the chapter with the answers, history repeats and the market is here to fluctuate. Regarding market behavior and prediction, would love to quote Japanese Yoshigahara's masterpiece puzzle, which, when you try to solve vividly, unfolds that the indisputable truth that the past teaches us is that the future will always surprise us. Always. So don't extrapolate. Last one about bonds or stocks. In your diversified portfolio, keep your bonds with higher weightage compared to stocks. See you in the next chapter. Happy investing.